In the days leading up to the presidential inauguration, our Democratic political class decided to issue one final stinging insult to the 75 million legal Trump voters by granting themselves protections that they are proud to deny to regular Americans. Over the last 4 years, Democrats in Washington have denied funding for a border wall. They have demonized our police and have pushed laws to disarm law-abiding gun owners. However, the moment that our political establishment, and this always happens, feels threatened in any way, they themselves immediately retreat behind what? Walls. And they call the police and the military, at times, to defend themselves with guns. The same guns that they want to take from you. I live in Washington, D.C. I work in Washington, D.C. And my commute to the Newsmax studios for my show on this network was made impossible this week. Why? There was a massive wall in my way with barbed wire on top. It was Democrats who erected this wall to protect themselves. These people are hypocrites. They're clowns, and you should not take them seriously. But unfortunately, they also are now in charge of the 3 branches of government. While we civilians may choose to ignore their stupidity and their silly decrees, there are those among us who are sworn to protect them and uphold them and follow their orders. As terrifying as it might sound, the military is now under direct control of Joe Biden, the guy who said he would mobilize true international pressure.
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
Okay. I've never heard of that unit. I can't wait for it to be mobilized. Must be the Special Forces. The True International Pressure Unit is feared by all of America's enemies. What was mobilized at the Capitol was indeed not true international pressure, but 25,000 well-armed and well-trained U.S. troops. For perspective, that is 3 times as many boots on the ground in Washington, D.C., your nation's capital, than in the active war zones of Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. And Joe Biden is their commander-in-chief, whether you like it or not. So what was life like on the first day under Biden's command? Our military, who honorably stood guard as Joe Biden became their commander, were kicked out of the U.S. Capitol to sleep on the ground in a parking garage in the dead of winter. Immediately after the inauguration, when they were no longer useful as political props, an entire 5,000-person battalion was kicked off of the U.S. Capitol grounds and told to sleep in a garage a mile away. One guardsman, who wishes to remain anonymous, texted me and told me this. Yesterday, dozens of senators and congressmen walked down our lines, taking photos, shaking our hands, and thanking us for our service. Within 24 hours, they had no further use for us and banished us to the corner of a parking garage. 5,000 soldiers, 1 power outlet, 1 bathroom. That is how Joe Biden's America treats us soldiers. We feel incredibly betrayed. Every American should be disgusted. Every decent, moral person in either party should have realized the wickedness of this action and rushed to use their power to do something about it. The one man who does have the power to order something done about it is President Joe Biden. He is the commander-in-chief. He is in charge. With a single phone call, Biden could have had these troops sleeping in the Ritz. But following the model of the last 47 years of his political life, Joe Biden did absolutely nothing. Not a word. This was, by the way, unquestionably the biggest story of the past 24 hours, yet no questions were asked about it at the Biden press briefing today from our sycophantic, feeble press corps. Guess what they actually asked about? Domestic terrorism.
The January 6th assault on the Capitol and the tragic deaths and destruction that occurred underscored what we have long known. The rise of domestic violent extremism is a serious and growing national security threat. The Biden administration will confront this threat with the necessary resources and resolve.
Not a single word has been said by our commander-in-chief about the troops under his direct command protecting his inauguration and being treated like dogs. Sadly, this disrespect of the troops is a return to normalcy set by the previous administration that Biden was an executive in. Who can forget the horrific moments when our nation abandoned our troops in Benghazi? 4 Americans died because the administration Joe Biden was serving in did nothing. Or when our sailors were surrendered to the terrorist state of Iran to be humiliated in front of the world. Joe Biden did nothing.
A new video just into CNN. It's from the Iranian news agency, and it shows our American sailors being turned over to American authorities.
Who can forget when the now commander-in-chief called our troops stupid bastards back in 2016?
I appointed Johnson to the academy. I just want you to know that. Let's clap for that, you stupid bastards. Man, you are a dull bunch. Must be slow here, man.
What an insult. If Joe Biden calls you dull and slow, if Joe Biden calls you slow, man, I don't think there is a worse insult in the world. By the way, the audience there were uniformed soldiers serving our country. Calling them stupid bastards is despicable. It's no wonder why, on day one, these same soldiers are sleeping in a cold garage under Biden's leadership. Perhaps it would not be so sad were we not still saying goodbye to President Donald Trump. This president was beloved by our military. Under President Trump, our military was rebuilt and funded, and our men and women in uniform protected and respected. Who can forget this moment? Donald Trump sees a Marine on Marine One, his hat flies off in the wind, and the president pats him on the shoulder, leans over, and picks up the hat and puts it back on his head. That's humility. That's love of the troops right there. The troops loved Trump back. Listen to the roars from the Army-Navy game as their commander-in-chief entered the stadium. And who could forget when Trump shook the hands of every single Air Force cadet that graduated when he gave a commencement speech? This took, by the way, over an hour. It took approximately 90 minutes of handshaking. President Trump also, a lot of people don't remember this, but he snuck into Afghanistan on Thanksgiving to personally serve Thanksgiving dinner to our troops. It's not easy for the president to sneak anywhere. President Trump did it because he actually cared about our men and women in uniform. This was a president who was beloved by our troops, the troops under his command. And by the way, he loved them back. That's not just ceremony. He showed it in action. The greatest thing you can do as president to show that you respect the troops is to not start new pointless wars. Trump did not. First president in my lifetime, by the way, to do that. Biden, on day one, removed military banners from the Oval Office. He is now planning new troop surges in Iraq and Syria, and he let the troops under his direct command sleep in a garage.